Welcome to episode 14 out of 20 of Be in the Room expert live series, all about how to stop shrinking and how to start leading with purpose. I'm your host, Lauren Morrison, certified professional and business coach, and I am here today to talk to you about how to stop creating stupid people. Now, the moral of this story, let me just say hello to some folks before we get into it. Thank you for accommodating the time change today. Now, before anyone says anything, yes, I'm in my gym clothes still. I've been at the DMV all morning. Don't come for me in the comments. I didn't have time to put a blazer on, and I didn't want to repeat the debacle of putting a blazer over my sports bra again. So we're hoodies, we're leggings, but we are here. I had to go to the DMV twice this morning. So if you know, you know. Let's say hello to some folks in the room. Hey, Trishan. Hey, Paul. Collins is here. Hello. Dish and Tell, welcome. Rosie, nice to see you. Sean is here, of course, and Butterfly Love is here. All right, and Maria's here. Okay, so I'm not doing whiteboard stuff today, but not really necessary because we're going to take a little bit of a break from the whiteboard, because the whiteboard has been all about how to implement break down certain theories and structures that'll help you lead with more clarity, to improve your executive decision-making function, improve your emotional intelligence, also that you can elevate how you show up in the rooms that you are currently in, or prepare yourself for the next room that you want to occupy. Everything that I talk about in these lives are themes that I've borrowed, that I have also incorporated into the book that is now available as of this week, called Be in the Room, It's How to Stop Shrinking, Start Leading with Purpose. And if at any point in this live you're like, I need to learn more about this, make sure you comment book, and a link will be sent to your DMs so that you can go ahead and purchase it. All you got to do is write the word book. I've taken care of the rest. Now, like I said, we have been covering a lot of various tools and strategies. We've talked about emotional intelligence. We've talked about navigating difficult conversations. We've talked about time management. We've talked about building relationships. We've talked about strategic decision-making. We've talked strategic decision-making frameworks. We've talked about a lot of things to help you raise your game. Now, here's the thing though. There are so many of you who will hear these tools and be like, oh, that's a really great concept. This is awesome. However, I don't know how to create the space in order to do these things. In a sense that's the thing that I see most people struggle with. Most people are struggling to up their game to the next level, because in order to be considered at the next level, you need to start playing at that level. But too many people are bogged down at the level that they are currently in. And I'm going to tell you why that is. The reason is because most leaders prioritize problem solving, right? And what was the other thing I was going to say? I was brilliant in the car. Most leaders prioritize their ego, they prioritize problem solving, and they prioritize being needed, okay? Now, these are the things that sabotage your growth. Because I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about where this notion of creating stupid people came from. So in the time when I was working in a corporation, and I was a project executive. So as a project executive, I got tapped on the shoulder by my leader, who was a director at the time. And he said, I want to groom you to become my predecessor. Like, I want you to apply to be my predecessor. Now, the thing is, part of the reason why he was needing to leave his position in the first place was because his doctor told him that if you stay working, you will die. His blood pressure, like all of his health diagnostics were crashing. He was burning out. And he was burning out. I mean, he was the kind of leader that everybody loved. Everyone loved him because they knew that they could go to him with any problem and he would be right in there to fix it with them. He's the kind of leader who rolls up his sleeves, leads by example, first in the morning, last out at the end of the night. And this is the kind of thing that most of us think about when we think about what it means to be a leader. When we think about what it means to be a leader, we think about the person who has the answers. We think about the person who is first in and last out. We think about the person that has an open door policy and anybody can come to you at any point in time and they can get results from you, right? That's how we think about leadership. Unfortunately, though, this is the very form identity of leadership that ends up in us burning out. As you can see, as you can hear in the story of a director who was managing this enterprise project management delivery function and was being told that if he continued that he would die. So now come to me, and him saying to me, I'd like you to step in. Why would I step in? Really and truly, no one wants this job. No one wants this job. I have 2 kids. I've got 2 small kids. My commute's already 90 minutes. I don't have the capacity. I can't risk getting sick like this. And I remember, anyways, I ended up saying yes to it. And I remember when he was transitioning to me, he said to me, Lauren, 90% of your job is going to be putting out fires. 10% of your job is going to be for the thing that you are hired to do as a director. 90% of your job is putting out fires, is being a firefighter. How many of us operate in that 90-10 arena? How many of us are continuously putting out other people's fires, solving other people's problems, being the person that people come to when they have a need, a desire, a question, because they know you're going to have the answer? So here's where this came in. When I started taking over the role for him, and I had about 60 plus people who were reporting to me. At first, my goal was to replace his leadership style that everybody seemed to love. So, and because I was really good at what I was doing and I was really good at being a project manager and I knew all the things and I had moved up vertically, I was the best at it. The reason I'm promoted is because I'm the best at doing what everyone on my team is asked to do. So what did that mean? What that meant is that people would always come to me for my approval. They would always come to me for my direction. They would always come to me for my solutions. They would always come to me with their problems. They would come to me with their escalations. And on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, well, they're supposed to because I'm supposed to be a leader. But here's what started to happen. What started to happen was I noticed that people's questions were getting dumber and dumber. I looked around, and as I was starting to burn out, as I was starting to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting home to see my kids. It's too much. There's too much to balance and I'm not seeing results. In addition to that, getting the feedback from other senior leaders who said, Lauren is tactical, but she's not strategic. Getting feedback that maybe we promoted her too early. She seems too junior for the role. Now, this is a problem. All I'm saying, not only am I not getting home to see my kids, not only am I not excelling from am I not being seen as a leader who can step up? Not only are those things, but at the same time, while that's happening, I still feel good because I'm solving everybody's problems. And then I started to realize that the more that people were asking me questions, what I started to realize is not everybody can be stupid. Here's the thing. Not everybody can be stupid. It doesn't make sense that everybody around me is stupid because who is the common denominator? Me. I'm the common denominator, which meant that I had to face the reality that I was creating stupid people. Because every time someone came to me with a question, anytime someone came into my office, I would literally watch. It was almost like I could see them turn their thinking dial down because I've trained them that they don't have to think around me. I've trained them that all they have to do is come to me and their problems will get solved. They will get answers. So they stop being proactive. They stop thinking for themselves and they stop trusting their own they start trusting their own instincts and their own abilities to problem solve because they become too heavily reliant on me. Right? Right. I created stupid people. And I can tell you from all of the leadership training that I do and the thousands of coaching hours that I do with leaders trying to get to that next level is that I am not alone. most leaders, many leaders are creating stupid people. Why? Because going back to what we talked about before in yesterday is when we move ourselves into, when we move ourselves into problem solving for everybody else, we are staying in that complicated and that simple zone. We are getting the immediate dopamine hits of, I got results. I solved someone's problem. Someone came into my room concerned. They left happy. That feels good. That feels good. The immediate dopamine hits that we don't get when we're leading at higher levels and navigating ambiguity, the dopamine hits that we don't get when we're trying things out without any guarantee of success, the dopamine hits that we don't get when we know that the things that we're putting in place today may not pay off for months or years. Those are the dopamine hits that we miss as leaders. So we gravitate towards solving everyone else's problems. We gravitate towards answering the questions that we do know the answers to. And this is where we burn out time and time again. So the best time management hack that I have come across as a leader, as a parent, as someone who is navigating multiple priorities, is not necessarily a calendar blocking tool. It's not an agenda. It's not Pomodoro techniques, right? The best time management tool is to stop the best time management hack, way to get more time into your day, is to stop prioritizing solving other people's problems. By empowering others to be able to solve their own problems, by empowering others to go through the discomfort of owning the accountability of their own trial and error, owning the accountability of their own thoughts, their own instincts, and their own mistakes. And if you think about the way that even you learned, some of you didn't get to where you are today because someone held your hand and told you exactly what to do every step of the way. Some of you, a lot of you got to where you are is because you took risks, you tried some shit out. You went with what you thought. You made some mistakes, you learned from them, but then that's how you continue to grow. And that is the exact thing that you are robbing others of when you are constantly trying to save them from the discomfort of failing or making mistakes. Right? That is why one of the most powerful tools that I have found as a leader in terms of getting my own time back is learning to ask people the question, what do you think? 4 words. 4 words that I put on a sticky note and put it on my desktop to remind myself that when someone comes to me with a question, before I jump in with an answer, even if I know it, I need to ask, what do you think? Really, any question that starts with the word what. Because when you ask someone a question that starts with the word what, it forces that person to be introspective, which means sending a message of accountability. Because look at the difference. If you come to me with a problem and I'm like, okay, well, here's what you need to do. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. Have you checked this website? Can you, go talk to so-and-so? If I do that versus if you come to me with a problem and I ask you, well, what do you think is the next step? I ask you, well, what have you tried so far? I ask you, what support do you require from me? That forces the other person to be like, oh shit, I I guess I got to come up with that plan. I guess I got to come up with that strategy. And what happens is, and this is why it becomes a time saver, is because the more you ask people what questions and the more they come to learn and to expect that if they come to you with a problem, you're just going to ask them a question, the more they are going to start to ask themselves those questions before they even come to you. Which means like the next time they have a problem and they want to come to you, or they want to cut, let's just say it's me, for example, the next time they have a problem and they want to come to me for the answer, here's what's going to happen. Okay, I got this problem. I'm not sure what to do. I'm going to go ask Lauren. But if I go ask Lauren, she's going to ask me what I've tried so far. So what have I tried so far? I've done this, that. She's also going to ask me, what do I think? So I'm going to, what is it that I do think? Okay, well, I think we should do this. I think we should do this. She's also going to ask me, what is it that I need from her? So at the end of that, I don't really think I need anything from her. I think I could just go with what I think. That's what happens. You give other people, when you back out and you start asking people what questions, you give them the space to start learning how to trust their own voice. You give them the space to start learning how to exercise their own thoughts, their own instincts, make some mistakes, but then learn from them. And that is what is going to help them and grow and develop to the next level, and what is going to give you now the space to move out of fighting everyone else's fires and going to look at the big picture, figuring out where you can lend your skills strategically now that you've been raised to this level. Where can you add more value in new rooms, in new conversations? Now you can create the space to go and navigate or invest in building the relationships that are going to help you move the needle. But again, it only happens if you take yourself out of the ego seat of being everyone's problem solver. You stop creating stupid people and you start learning to empower others. Now, this all sounds really great and sounds like, by the way, this works. But here's the resistance that comes up from leaders all the time. What if I ask them what they think and what they think is wrong? Then what do I do? Here's the thing. Just because you know how to do it one way doesn't mean there aren't other ways to approach it. Part of being a leader is also having the humility to kind of say that maybe there's another way to go at this. And maybe what I need to give this person is the space to be able to try something out and give them the assurance that I'm going to support them on the other side of this. Okay? That being said, not every situation can be a learning, growing, development, coaching situation, right? So for example, if the building is on fire, I'm not going to come to you and you say to me, Lauren, where do I go? I'm not going to say to you in that moment, well, what exit do you think that we should go out? I'm just going to tell you, go out this way. Single file, get in line. I'm going to look for compliance. So this is where you have to use some level of discernment when you're working with other people. So for example, thinking about, and this is an analogy that I learned that I've been using with leaders as well, in terms of when do you decide to ask a what question versus when do you give in to your desire to tell someone what to do. So frame it this way. Think of it as like when they come to you with a problem, like how thick is that dynamite stack, right? Is it one dynamite in a sense of if it goes off, I mean, it might create a little bit of a spark, but whatever. If it's like a 1-2 dynamite situation, hey, what do you think you should do? What support do you need from me? What risk, what have you thought of in terms of risk mitigation? What is your check-in cadence, blah, 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 blah. Go at it. You exercise your ideas. I'm going to be here to support you. If that stack of dynamite is going to be world ending, whereby if they mess it up, things are going to be catastrophic. Maybe that is the opportunity to get a little bit closer and move from coaching to now telling. But I can assure you that if you looked at how much, just even auditing for yourself right now, how many problems do you solve a day that are 2 dynamites worth versus 10 dynamites worth? You probably find that you're doing a lot of like small dynamite problem solving, right? So if you're doing a lot of small dynamite problem solving, this might be an opportunity to start to look at those situations and say, the next time someone comes to me with anything less than 3 sticks of dynamite, I'm going to ask them a what question first. I'm going to ask them, what do you think? I'm going to ask them, what have you tried so far? I'm going to ask them, what do you need from me? If they come to me with anything more than 6, I'm just going to tell them. I'm just going to tell them what they need to do. I'm going to give them specific instructions on how to solve this problem. Either way, the important thing is not that you are doing this for every problem, but you are using more discernment when it comes to what problems you jump into and what problems you step back and allow the other person the opportunity to think for themselves, to grow for themselves, and to develop their own internal confidence on how to execute their own ideas so that you can get time back in your day. And I've seen this happen with leaders over and over and over and over and over again, including myself. This is the game changer. When you have more space in your day You have the opportunity to elevate your game in new ways. You have the opportunity to apply some more strategic thinking, to think bigger picture, to develop more powerful relationships. All of these things that are necessary to not only dominate in the spaces that you're in, but also to raise your game to the new rooms that you haven't even entered yet. To be considered, to be invited into these new rooms. This is how you move the needle. So, the things that I am talking about in any of this live, like delegating control to someone else, allowing someone else to try an idea that's not yours, is hard. It's a hard thing to do. Biologically, as humans, we are wired to solve problems. We get joy from solving problems. We feel purpose in solving problems. Overriding that joy, overriding that instinct, I should say, is hard to do. There's a lot of fear associated with it. And burning out is also hard. Becoming resentful of the people you work with and who work for you is also hard. Becoming resentful of the economy, becoming resentful of your company, becoming resentful of your boss because you're not getting where you want to go is hard. You are not choosing between an easy path and a hard path. There are two things here that are very hard. Staying the same has a level of hard, and if it doesn't, don't change. Really and truly, if staying the same doesn't feel hard, if the long-term trajectory of you staying the same doesn't feel hard, stay same, change nothing. Keep doing you. But if you can look down the line, there is a level of pain, discomfort, resentment that I don't want to feel, then it's time for you to choose a new hard. The new hard of trying a new tool, the new hard of trying a new tactic, the new hard of changing the way you make decisions, the new hard of trying something risky where you don't know what the outcome is going to be. At the end of the day, no matter what situation you're in between two hards. And the hard thing that you choose is the hard that is in alignment with who you want to be, the trajectory of who you want to be, of who you want to become. That is the hard that you choose. Okay? Oh my gosh, there's so many people who joined and I never got to say hello because I was just here ranting and raving. But again, this is not just for the things that I'm talking about in this series, and especially in here, is not just about if you have direct reports or not. Like I said, I use this with my kids all the time. I use this with... I use as an entrepreneur, I use this with vendors and partners. When I have a problem with them, I don't just say, here's a problem, here's what I want you to do, but I'll say like, here's what I'm looking at. I want to know what your plan is. Because again, any time that you are looking to enforce accountability in someone, whether it's someone who reports to you, whether it's someone you report to, whether it's someone who is a vendor or a partner, a business partner, whatever the case is, asking people questions that start with what help them to better take accountability for their role in what it takes to become, in what it takes for you to step away to become successful. So that means pivoting away from being needed, right? Pivoting away from being needed and pivoting towards empowering others to become, really and truly, it's pivoting away from being needed in this world, in this room, and pivoting towards being unnecessary. It's pivoting towards being unnecessary, because when you're unnecessary over here, chances are you are figuring out ways to move over here. That's where you will find the advancement. But you have to find ways to be unnecessary in the world that is keeping you stuck right now. Hard pill to swallow for your ego, but it's going to make all the difference. All right, that is today. Thank you so much. As I mentioned, things that I talk about here, they are in my book. So if you enjoyed what you've been listening to in these lives, if you're taking something away from what you've learned today, I encourage you to comment the word book so you can get a copy of my book, Be in the Room, How to Stop Shrinking, How to Start Leading with Purpose. And yeah, very grateful for all of you for being here. This is 14 days of going live, 14 days of 30 minutes going live to be able to bring you all the tools that I have not only studied, but also implemented and teach now to other leaders to enable them to completely separate themselves to get to new levels. This is the level of coaching that you are getting in this series. This is the level of coaching that companies are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in their top leaders because they want to see them thinking at more strategic levels. They want to see them rising. This is the coaching that individuals are paying tens of thousands of dollars for, so that they can break out of the old habits that are keeping them here and focus on what is keeping on how to transform internally in order to move towards new habits, new behaviors, new beliefs that are going to get them into new rooms, right? So I'm really glad for those people who are taking advantage of this opportunity, who are showing up for this. And I don't expect anyone to take everything away because there's a lot in this series. There are, like I said, there are 20 episodes, which means there's always 20 things that you could be doing. But I strongly recommend that after you finish absorbing one of these episodes, you kind of take a step back and be like, what's 1-2 millimeter shift that I can incorporate in how I make decisions today? 1-2 millimeter shift. So even if today, the one thing you take away from this live is the next time someone asks me a question, I'm just going to try. And before I give them an answer, I'm just going to ask them, what do you think? Very small shift, but over time is going to make monumental gains in your ability to rise to the next level. Oh, Dave Momper's here. Hi, Dave. I'm just getting off, but it's so good to see you. Oh, I got to connect with you. Hi, Tracy. Sean. All right. All about working on the business instead of in the business, 100%. When you are constantly solving other people's problems, you are definitely working in the business. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. We will be back tomorrow. I actually can't remember what we're covering tomorrow. Damn it. See, this is what happens when I rush into these lives from the DMV. Anyways, I'm sure, but tomorrow is going to continue to be all about leadership identity and leadership power, the things that you need to change on the inside if you want to step up your level in business, in leadership, etc. And yeah, again, focusing on the theme of what got you here is not going to get you there. Love you. Talk soon. Bye.